literally almost slipped. It's snowing in North Carolina. But I've said that before. It's snowing in North Carolina. And this is interesting because I think this is the first time ever, at least as long as I've been here for almost 3 decades, that it has snowed 3 times in a very close fashion. So it snowed here like a week before Christmas, it snowed here a couple weeks ago, and it's snowing again. It's rainy, it's gloomy, it's very blah. I want to take you through the understanding of some memory card stuff. Oh, there we go, trusty. Alright, so now this Panasonic ZF-60 is pretty cool because it films at 4K, 100 megabits per second, as well as 1080p at 60 frames per second at about 28 megabits per second. It's pretty typical for 1080p filming. Alright, so this is a PNY. This right here is 256 gigabytes. It has a max read speed of 95 megabits per second. 95 megabytes per second, sorry. So basically it is a U3 card. It's a UHS-1 SDXC Class 10 card. So UH1 is ultra high speed. They have currently right now 3 classes, but 2 are the mainstream, 1 and 2. So 1 is basically, you can use 1 for 4K, you just need to make sure, in most cases, not all, that you have a U3. U1 can work, just kind of depends on the card. But for sustained maximum record limits and file sizes and stuff, I would recommend going for a U3. So you see this on the card, it says 95 megabits per second. Let's see if it, so you see that, and that right there is, put it back on my eye, sorry. This memory card is fast. It works really well. It'll work just fine with 4K. Then you have these. This is a UHS-2 card. Shiny. 2 different types of cards. Most people don't really care. They don't really know. And it doesn't really matter in most cases. For most people recording normal stuff, this will do just fine. For people like me, because I have a GH5, which records, you know, larger file sizes, records at a standard 150 megabits per second for 4K, and then can go up to 400 megabits per second. Megabytes and megabits are 2 different things. Okay, now for 1 megabyte a second, you're looking at 8 megabits per second. So what you do is, whatever the card says, or whatever the camera says, you multiply the megabytes by 8, and that's the actual number you get for that card. Again, that's the max that the card will do. Doesn't mean it's going to do that all the time. So that's why you do want to get yourself at least a U3 card for 4K recording. And the reason why is because these have a minimum 30 megabyte per second write time. So that means that when you're recording 4K, you're going to record at least 30 megabytes per second, which equates to well over the 100 to 150 megabits per second that these cameras are recording. This is a Kingston USB 3.0 memory card reader. This right here will read UHS-2 cards faster than a regular SD card reader. This card reads at 95 megabytes per second. You need something like this to take full advantage of those read speeds, meaning that they go onto your computer, your laptop a lot quicker. So why am I talking about memory cards? Because I just want you guys to understand that memory cards are important if you're doing video. If you're doing 1080p, pretty much anything with a Class 10 rating, which is the little, say, round circle that says 10. You need that 10 in order to have proper everything, proper, you know, record sizes and limits and whatnot. It's not convoluted. It's just most people don't really talk about it or like to talk about it. Take this right here, 180 megabytes per second. Multiply that by 8. Sorry, I gotta get my calculator out here. This has a maximum write speed of 1440 megabits per second. But that's not fully sustained. That's just the maximum that it can go to. It doesn't necessarily sustain that throughout the whole time. So you have to be careful if you have something like a GH5. Canon 5D Mark IV, which records to UHS-1 cards. The GH5 will record to UHS-2 and UHS-1. Everything also, by the way, if your camera records to UHS-2, it's backwards compatible. So get good memory cards. Now let's talk filters. All right, these are very simple. A camera like this is not going to have a filter on it. You're not going to be able to put a filter on it, which is fine. It's not the greatest thing, but it's completely fine. Cameras like this, the GH5, the X-T2, this little Z-Cam E1 here, these are, because they're interchangeable lenses, these lenses are going to have filter threads on them, so you will be able to use filters. Should you use a UV filter? That is an age-old question, and that honestly comes down in most cases to preference. I do not prefer to use a UV filter. The reason why is because I've used them in the past, and I've used cheap and slightly more expensive ones, and they have given me at times random lens flare or things that I just didn't like, artifacts within a picture that I just didn't like, okay? User preference on this. There are some people out there that are fine with it, that will just move around more to be able to get the shot that they want or whatever. It's completely up to you. I know plenty of people who use them. I know plenty of people that don't. The big criticism on why you should use them is, simply put, protect your glass. Somebody spent $1,000 or $1,200 or even $500 on a lens. You don't want to destroy the lens. Use it if you want to. I understand the fear. I haven't used them in years, honestly. Ended up starting to use more CPL filter. The reason why I use a CPL filter is because you want to darken the image just a little bit, okay? So when you're taking photos or doing videos in bright situations, a CPL filter will break down some of that harsh UV light coming into your camera lens, okay? And of course being recorded onto the sensor and onto your memory card. This right here darkens up the image just enough, and it also opens up some of the colors if you're looking in a sky or looking at various lit objects, okay? These are really, really great products to use. You can also use ND filters, which are neutral density filters. Those you're going to want to use for photography or video when you're trying to get a certain type of shot, because ND filters are typically a lot darker than CPL filters, and with that comes a darker image that you then have to process differently within the camera or within your editing equipment. One thing I also do recommend is getting a step-up filter. You're gonna have lenses that are of various sizes. This right here is a 49mm thread. This is an old Olympus M.Zuiko lens, or F.Zuiko, sorry. This right here has a, what, a 58 or 62, sorry, 62mm thread. The 12 to 35 I'm shooting with has a 58mm thread. The 10 to 24 lens that usually sits on, for the most part, sits on the X-T2 has a 72mm thread. I've had lenses that had a 77mm thread size. Thing is that a lot of times you just get tired of having to change out filters and having to carry them all around you. So having a step-up ring, if I've got 3 lenses with me, and this one takes a 49, this one takes a 62, that one takes a 58. Having a step-up ring is just going to help me that day, because I can use any lens I want and use one filter for the most part, if not always. They're really cheap. This is, I spent like $30, $35 and got like 4 or 5 different filter step-up rings. So there are a ton of them out there. At 500 subscribers, I will start giving away stuff free to you.
Okay, at 500 subscribers, I will draw names and give away this, the $210 Acer Aspire 1 laptop. This is a 14-inch laptop, and it's great for everyday use. I'll throw up the specs on the screen here for you, so you actually get a lot of use out of this. I'm currently editing 4K footage on free software with it, and it's actually really not that bad. At 1,000 subscribers, I will be giving away this camera, the Panasonic ZS60. This is actually a really great 4K point and shoot. I have added microphones on it, or little microphone wind covers on the top of it, so you'll get that. You will also get a selfie stick. Not just any selfie stick, a really nice one with an Arca Swiss head and plate to go on. So it's really easy to attach your camera. But that's not it. I'll also be giving away an iPhone to go along with it, a 64GB memory card, a clamp, and something to hold the iPhone onto the selfie stick, so you can monitor all the footage you're getting with your new camera. This right here is about $400 or so worth of stuff, maybe even more. That's at 1,000 subscribers. At 500 subscribers, you could win the laptop, or you could win both. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Right now, I'm 319 subscribers away from 500 and 819 subscribers away from 1,000. So let's help get me there, because that way you guys can profit on it. Have a good one.